Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Christa, Practical Astros, and I'm really just honored and delighted that Ren Butler is being sitting in the chair right now. I've persisted this interview for months and months and months, and thanks for your compassion to my persistence. I really did want to ask you about this pairing of Neptune and Saturn together. You may know Ren from this book. Everybody should have it if they don't already. It's kind of a classic at this point for every astrology student, and it's a recipe book for if you're kind of hung up on any sort of pairing placements. And I'm excited to know that you're kind of working on an additional book that is going to go alongside with this. So this book is The Archetypal Universe, Astrological Patterns in Human Culture, Thought, Emotion, and Dreams. And you are an author. You've written a couple of books. You are consulting, but you're not consulting right now because you're working on a book that kind of will follow this up. Do you feel like speaking about that book that you're working on right now?
Sure. Thank you, Christa. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate it. So it's called Planet Talk Encyclopedia of Archetypal Astrology. It'll be a 2-volume book. We're looking at about 4,000 or 5,000 famous people, and it'll be organized by planetary pairs. So, for example, if you have Mars-Pluto, you can go to the Mars-Pluto section and see people who have it in many different categories of life, such as actors, directors, musicians, and many others. So it should be a good resource book, a lot of pictures and captions and having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
It's probably about a 3-year full-time writing job. I work at about 50 hours a week. So
Wow.
around 3 years probably
Are you writing it alone? Do you have help?
I have some colleagues and friends contributing, but very small amounts.
Yeah.
So I'm doing
It's
most
your
of it.
burden. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's
Burden of
what
love.
I was made for this kind of work. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm awash in archetypes, like a sea of meaning.
Mm.
I'm just slowly pulling in the fish one by one, and
Yeah.
just a beautiful win-win situation.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'm going to read a little section of your book about Saturn Neptune, because the whole reason I was just curious about talking to you was looking at Saturn and Neptune conjoined in Aries. And in 2025, we've had a little taste of them together. But next year, they're going to be together at 0 degrees. So that nice pivotal Aries point in the sign of Aries. And I always find with Neptune, it's always so tricky to try to figure out. And that's just kind of by design for Neptune, right? But I'm curious and I really want to know. So I thought, well, who better to ask than you? So again, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
In your book, you wrote on the Saturn-Neptune pairing, the principles of this pairing. It's a humble and grounded spirituality, quiet centeredness and integrity, feelings of divine discontent leading to a committed spiritual practice, practical service to others, feelings of uncertainty and doubt, disillusionment and lost innocence, anguished cravings for the lost womb, awareness of the poignant gulf between the human and the divine realms. And that, like the universal reality and like a certain reality seems to be kind of the theme that Neptune and Saturn, when they kind of meet up, like that's kind of what they're contending with. So how do you see that kind of expressed through Aries?
Well, I just want to bring in the songwriter Sting for a minute, born with Sun, Saturn, Neptune, and talks about there is no political solution, to our troubled evolution. I think that the committed spiritual path will be one thing that vernal point of 0 degrees Aries will accentuate. This is a time of great disillusionment and kind of the end of a dream in so many ways for all sides of the political spectrum. And I believe the way forward for humanity is deep self-exploration.
Yeah.
Now we've got people like Stanislav, Grof, and Jung that have laid down a pathway for human spiritual opening in a way that is non-sectarian, non-denominational, universal, and all-encompassing. We can relate to the best of all the world's mystical traditions. And when people explore deeply within their psyches, they can have imagery and deities and archetypal terrains, heavens, hells, paradises, and so on, from religious and spiritual traditions from all over the world and from all times
Mm.
and places. And so it really is the death knell of fundamentalism.
Mm.
That's one of the elements of Saturn, Neptune, is fundamentalism can only survive at a shallow level of depth. It's
Mm.
about belief and sort of parroting, mimicking words that you've heard from other people, being fed by this tremendous volcano of unhealed energies inside of people, perinatal and other energies. But when we have our own unitive, mystical, spiritual experiences, it tends to take that all-encompassing, universal, non-denominational form. And we can appreciate the best of our own religious traditions that we were raised in, the mystical side of it. For Christianity, that would tend to be Gnosticism. For Judaism, it would be Kabbalah. For Islam, it would be um, like the whirling dervishes and Sufism,
Mm.
and so on and so forth. So that's a really optimistic discovery. But I think that 0 degrees Aries point will really be like a new beginning of spirituality for humanity in some sense, a commitment to the unfolding process.
Yeah. Well, I think optimism is kind of something that Aries are charmed with. Sometimes, charmed with it in a disillusion itself of being optimistic and hopeful, but someone has to do it.
Right?
And kind of diving a little bit deeper, and even hearing you say this now, there is a kind of dispelling of the fear. And I think when anyone talks about Saturn, fear just immediately walks into the room, because there's such a fearful thing with Saturn. And the idea of the limitlessness, or the seeming limitlessness with Neptune, and then that fearful constriction of Saturn. The idea of, when Saturn and Neptune have been together, and in the past, it's been, fraught times, especially in Aries. But, the world is always fraught. It's kind of our nature to be fraught and then find peace, and be fraught and find peace. And it was really a joy to go through and look at this, mostly through your writings and your teachings, to get that glimmer of hope of like, here's our chance to kind of take this and find that grounded spirituality, instead of it just being theoretical. It's like, the service that you give, how you take care of others, and using really fundamental groundwork to express that connection to the divine. Kind of feel like this is our chance to make that happen. It doesn't have to go into the stories that we tell about Aries of being a warrior and being, violent. Aries also defends and protects, and that's kind of, I've been leaning more on that, of like, we have the ability to defend and protect the fundamental truths that we believe in, with this conjunction of these two planets.
Right. Yeah, for many people, the Saturn-Neptune world transit can begin as a kind of a loss of faith,
Yeah.
the loss of innocence, a sense of having lost something precious.
Mm.
And it mirrors the stage in the perinatal sequence of Stanislav Grof's discovery of losing the womb, moving from an amniotic oceanic realm of connection with the mother, where all the fetus's needs are being met for food and oxygen and so on, to the water breaks, the uterine walls begin to contract around it, and there's a sense of loss, permanent loss of sort of descent down into like a hellish realm. And there's no way out, which is reflected in the fact that the cervix is still closed.
Mm.
So that's a very big difference in emotional thematic experience,
Yeah.
quality. And it creates a strong desire to reconnect with the divine, to do the inner
Mm.
work, to regain it. And we have to go inward. We have to introspect. We have to stay with our feelings. Neptune, on the positive side, Neptune works to dissolve the boundaries around our Saturnian repression
Mm.
of our fear and our sadness, the two
Yeah.
main Saturnian emotions. So it's harder to repress them. So they start flooding up, flowing out into consciousness, which is a better problem to have. We
Mm.
want to feel what's inside of us. We need
Yeah.
to create this relationship with our psyche so we're open to what is coming up and wants to surface inside of us. The only way negative emotions can leave our system is through conscious experience.
Mm.
So that's a really positive side of it. It moistens the Saturn archetype so that fear and sorrow can come forth. It's a great time to cry.
Mm.
It's a great time to feel our fear, like even sometimes people can, like, if they're lying in bed and they're feeling their fear and they really go into it, their bodies could even shake. That's tremendously beneficial to go into it on that level.
Yeah.
It's also good to cultivate spiritual friendships, especially if we're not in a relationship. Someone who, let's say in a cannabis session or some other kind of medicine work, we can hold hands with in a non-sexual way, that kind of reparenting it's called, or fusion therapy or kind of bonding. That can be very helpful to heal some of the feeling of separation and estrangement of these
Mm.
archetypes. So,
Yeah. Well, do you mind if I share this graphic from your book that shows that
yeah,
this is right here. It
sure.
shows this.
Perinatal sequence.
Yeah, and I feel like it is a helpful image because if you think of just our experience in the womb and that contraction, and it's that contraction is that kind of disruption from not even knowing that you're, like, when you're in this amniotic universe, there isn't just the conscious awareness that I'm connected, you just are, right? There's like this kind of seeming this reciprocal flow, but the contraction starts to change that. And to me, it is kind of like the enlightenment or the leaving the garden. It's like having that realization of what was, but yeah, like you talked about that sense of loss, that permanent loss, like what what was once there now has changed. And then that duality of being aware of what you had versus what is going on, that duality, that Saturnian duality, compared to that oneness or wholeness of that amniotic universe and Neptune. That, like, that's what I'm wrestling with. Like, how, when those combine, you know, how do they synergize together, and then what can come from it? Because if you do have that consciousness that something is changing, is it a return to that Neptunian wholeness, or is it using that enlightenment to then create a third secret thing that is kind of beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is the returning to the unitive state, but on a higher, more conscious level.
Mm.
That's what happens automatically.
Yeah.
And the way forward, as Jung realized, is through our pain, through Saturn. We have to be willing to suffer, and to allow what is the pain that is inside of us to show on our face,
Mm-hmm.
in therapy and deep self-exploration. And that gradually moves the process. So as I've described, the tears of sorrow become the healing waters of life. We
Mm.
can have a sense of divine mercy that has
Yeah.
allowed us to finally feel our pain. And then that begins to sweeten the womb again and move us back into that unitive state.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a time, Saturn, Neptune, I mean, this world transit is no joke. And I mean, it's happening now. It started a year and a half ago in March, and it's a little over 3-year process with the wider orbs that we use in
Hmm.
archetypal astrology. We're halfway through now. We're very close to halfway through. It can be a time of dis of confusion, of demoralization, of loss of innocence, as I described, and there are a lot of people out there feeling that. It's a time when it's better to be clean and sober.
Mm.
Try not to resort to chemical escapism to numb our pain. It's better to feel it, just let it be in our belly and notice it without trying to change it. Just breathe into it and go, I'm afraid and I'm feeling that, and that's what's happening, or I'm feeling sorrow, or so on. Um, the responsible use of psychedelics is the opposite approach. That's an opening and
Mm.
uncovering approach as opposed to numbing and suppressing. But it's good to do that in a responsible way with a trained guide or sitter or therapist
Hmm.
or two, a male female dyad is the ideal. And not to try to do anything like heroic doses. That's a really
Risky.
ethic, to have. You should not use the word heroic and psychedelic in the same
Mm.
sentence. No one's a hero. We all suffer and die, and then
Yeah.
and there's a rebirth back into the universal consciousness. But don't think that the force of will or optimism you're going to blast through things,
Mm. Yeah.
because it's more like being taken apart.
Yeah, when I hear the heroic dose, I think you're just setting up an adventure for you to be the, protagonist and antagonist at the same time. So you're
Yeah,
getting into your own trouble.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so with this, Neptune, Saturn, they are going to be, connecting to Pluto and Uranus. That Pluto's in Aquarius and Uranus is in Gemini. So we're getting this whole, process that's, designed out. That you got this from Stanislav Grof and Richard Tarnas, but it's laid out in your book. This is a graphic from your book.
Mhm.
So I'm going to move over here. This is your website. This is the book that we're focusing on. You have more books than this, and you're working on the next one. I'm excited for the next one. I listened to one of your lectures, and uh, brought in a lot of quotes and examples of celebrities. And one of them was a quote from Oscar Wilde, who has Saturn Neptune square. And
Wow.
there was a phrase of, what was it? Like where there is sorrow, there is holy ground. And
Right.
I felt that one deeply as someone with Saturn Neptune square in their own chart.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for the new book to come in, because I feel like those little examples of like Sting who carry it in their nativity, and the works that are done, the films that are done, the musical pieces. The past couple of days, I've been listening to Brian Eno's song, Lay My Love Around, and it was just kind of on repeat. And so I just looked and see to when that record was being made and released, and it was under a Saturn Neptune conjunction in Capricorn. So it's
Well, good
just,
job.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
good research. Yeah, keep, write it down. That
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good material. Yeah,
It's
that's
just
excellent.
nice to have the astrology kind of like waft through like a nice breeze to kind of accompany you of what you're reading, what you're exploring,
Hmm.
that comes in those omens. So I'm
Yeah,
excited for your book, because it sounds like that's what you're collecting. It's like a grimoire of auspicious omens through people's experience and the art that they create through the music and the film, and their actions in life. So
yeah, it should be pretty rich.
yeah.
Yeah, the Oscar Wilde also said in De Profundis, only through a broken heart may Lord Christ enter in.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably say the same about Krishna or or Osiris or Persephone
Mm-hmm.
or the other dying and reviving deities. So yeah, yeah. Thanks for showing that. We're
Yeah.
already in the dynamic lineup with or actually confluent, flowing lineup with the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. That's about a 15-year trine that we're in, a very powerful flowing interplay between the evolutionary force of Pluto and the revolutionary breakthrough impulses of Uranus. And Saturn and Neptune is they're very close together. They're right at the midpoint, so sextiling both. So it's something like a receiver dish where, I think that the divine can kind of help to organize humanity, organize our psyches, put us back on track, toward deep self-exploration and, taking responsibility for our process, becoming less politically fanatical and certainly not violent, and also living in a more sustainable way with nature. I mean, we have to take action on climate change. This is a real thing, and it's a very serious escalating threat. We need to transition to renewable energy. So I see that, the transpersonal psychology and the psychedelic renaissance on one hand, and also renewable energy as the two most important things, imperatives.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now's the time.
yeah.
I'm going to click over here because what you have coming up pretty soon, we're recording this on September 24th, 2025, and what you have coming up and next week is when it starts. October 4th is
Right.
your course. So do you want to speak a little bit about that as we close out?
Be an honor to have people in it. It's a really wonderful community of people that are drawn to this, and we have little breakout sessions in most classes where people can talk, share a little bit. I'll be presenting some of this new research for the encyclopedia, like singers that we love, and then some of their major aspects, just going through a list of them. Natalie Maines is one of the first ones I want to talk about from the Chicks. She's so very talented and also controversial, very passionate, complex chart, and lots going on. So we'll kind of unpack some of those things. So there will be a lot of new material that, it's never been talked about, at least that I know of, or I haven't certainly done it. We'll be looking at the effects of all the different major transits in our dreams, in our psychedelic therapy sessions. We'll be looking at relationships like synastry and composite. We will be looking at people's dreams from the class and also session reports. So it's quite participatory, and it's always a fun atmosphere.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even get to dreams. That's a whole other conversation to have. From your website, I found your dreams podcast and started listening to it. And dreams are what brought me back to astrology. So again, that's a whole other longer conversation. You do mention a lot of the dream themes in the archetypal universe. You'll have sections of it, of ways that transits or ways that pairings will show up kind of within the dreams, within the thematics. And I've always thought that was very useful, very helpful. So I'm glad that you include that.
Yeah, I collected a lot of those dreams during my 50s, which is called the golden decade in sociology. And one of the reasons is because people have Neptune trine Neptune, Uranus trine Uranus, and Pluto trine Pluto. And it was the Neptune trine Neptune transit that really supported that research. It was just I could be lying in bed and then remembering my dream is kind of pulling a fish out of the water. You can't wake up too fast. That sunlight, that solar consciousness of the waking consciousness will just scatter the dreams like shadows. They just disappear. So you have to wake up slowly by remembering the dream, and wake up a little more, like kind of pulling a fish out of the water, as I was doing that, I was already correlating it with transits.
Yeah.
Because I knew what the transits were. There was a tremendously, there was a synergy happening there, and it was very rich. to do
Nice.
that. I loved it so much. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
thanks for
glad.
collecting all that, because then we continue to be able to kind of feed off of your own research from that.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks. I'm glad you appreciate it. You
yeah.
know, there's so much room for people to write books on that, like
Mm,
a whole book on dream work, using those principles to see if you see the same things.
mhm.
Be fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. In a couple of weeks, I'm giving a talk on lucid dreaming for astrologers, basically just to show people how to develop that practice to help integrate their own astrological study. And, as you track planets, tracking the dream simultaneously, even if it doesn't make sense then, on reflection, when you look at the transits, if you look at your dreams, you can sometimes have a better interpretation, a few days or a few weeks or a few months or a year out of what that dream meant based on the transits. I mean, it's fascinating. I think it's a really beautiful way that we can integrate, parts of ourselves. And if we already have an astrological mind, kind of inviting in that dream work, it is limitless. So
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, we use a little bit wider orbs in archetypal astrology. So
hmm,
for us, a transit begins a little bit sooner and ends a little bit later than in
hmm,
traditional astrology. And I believe that Tarnas' discovery of these wider orbs calibrated the archetypal telescope, like, click, 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 and then
hmm,
all of a sudden things come into focus.
yeah.
And without those wider orbs, I don't think it's really possible to have a consistent astrological dream work correlation, because
Hmm.
we will miss some of the most important ones.
Yeah. Yeah. There's echoes, like you talk about pulling a fish out of water. In my experiences, it is very watery, and sometimes your toes just touch the edge of the water, and sometimes you're fully submerged, but it's these layers or these echoes and this volume that is either turned up or turned down, and it doesn't just automatically start on this one thing. There's these kind of precursors, so you hear the wind of over the water before you actually touch the water itself. So I think that we can be dogmatic about certain things, and having some fluctuation with, like, the use of orbs is a great example. You can cut yourself off from a lot of experience if you intellectualize it to a certain degree instead of just experiencing it with your own dreams, with your own transits. And again, writing it down. Tell everybody, just write it down. You don't know when you're going to need it. Write it down and date it. you know
Wow. Very well
yeah.
said. You have such a poetic mind and a
Hmm.
soul. Moon Neptune, do you have, or Moon Mercury Neptune? It,
um uh no, moon Mercury Sun in Taurus. Yeah.
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 I like to look at your chart with the wider orbs. It's possible you have
Mm-hmm.
connections in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got Pluto Neptune connected, and I have Saturn Neptune connected. Um, and Neptune and Pluto, I don't use yods, but Neptune and Pluto connect to my Sun and my Mercury. So that might be also a consideration. So
Okay,
yeah.
so Sun, Mercury, Neptune
Hmm.
are quincunx.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a very soulful
Yeah.
aspect.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for letting me bug you about this. All that Taurus, I'm just going to be consistent until you actually say no. I'm going to just keep plowing away.
No, I appreciated it. And
Yeah.
I do look forward to talking again. And, everyone out there listening, wish me luck for this encyclopedia.
Mm.
It'll be a good resource for the wider community.
Yeah.
I'm also including astrologers in it, dead astrologers,
Hmm.
like the people who came before us, and current living ones. So, Christa, if you want to send me a paragraph on one of your major aspects, or 2 to 4 sentences, love
Yeah.
to include it.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
um, all right. I'll stop the share here. And any last words before we sign off? Thanks again for sitting with me. This has been a real treat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Been a privilege. Yeah, well, just about the class, let me know if you have any questions. I think you'll be including maybe my website there.
Yep.
I'm happy if people pay in installments, and I'm happy to give discounts for students and people that are maybe underemployed.
Yeah.
And I record the classes, so you don't have to come live each week. It's totally fine if you just want to listen.
So they're recorded classes, you can attend live, and then what does it look in between classes? Do they meet weekly?
Well, we meet weekly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Cool.
there's a study guide of the archetypes that I put together that people can fill in with their insights and discoveries, like whether, say Venus, Neptune, do I have it? And family members who have it, famous people who have it. You can use my examples or your own. When did I have a Neptune to Venus transit? So then later on when you're doing readings, you can just flip back and go, oh yeah, my Uncle Bob has this, and my ex-girlfriend, and so on and so forth. It'll help to jog our memories. So.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I will remember those things about people and not their name.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be like, oh yeah, Venus, Pluto, I remember you. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
I might have to dig for the details, but that's the memory that is implanted from clients. Is like some of the louder aspects in their chart, for better or worse.
That's really great. Yeah, me too. Yeah, so like, sorry, Mars, Pluto. I'm looking for Mars, Neptune.
Yeah, sorry.
That for now.
Yeah. All right. Well, with this, I'll stop recording. Thanks again. And I'll put your website with the class information in the show notes. And again, open invitation to talk about this longer after you're on the other side of publishing the book about this or any other subject. I was just most curious about this for this time. So thanks again, Ren.
Oh, you're welcome, Christa. Thank you.